take your questions. Again, we're going to start with the people in the room here, and then we'll move over to you.
Proud of our team. I thought we battled and competed. I thought we were a little rattled early just with the atmosphere and things, and really tough to let a team who's as good as Michigan get a 17-0 lead. But we kept battling. I thought we competed. I thought we played hard right to the end. Proud of the defense. Got a few stops late, and they were still going. I mean, they tried to throw it there with about 4 minutes left and stuff, and we did a pretty good job. But you lose the turnover margin, 3-0 against a team like Michigan on the road. It's going to, your chances of winning that game are 1 in a million. So we just got some feedback. We got to get better. We got to hit the practice field this week and improve as a team. But I believe in these guys, and I think we'll continue to get better and grow.
Have you ever ran anything similar to the through the legs bounce to DJ before?
Yeah, we ran it in 2021 at South Dakota State against North Dakota State for a touchdown. We beat them that year. So worst feeling is a lot more fun to run that play when you win.
And I know you said earlier this week that you don't believe in moral victories. I know you guys are disappointed and all that too, but you kind of touched on it there. I mean, is this something you think that you guys can build?
Well, hey, the team that was picked to win our league went on the road, played a group of 5 team, and got whooped on the road. So it's where we go from here. It's where we go from here, and we got to certainly get better. I don't know if there's a team as good as the best team in the league last year. So we got to grow and we got to get better. But I do think there's some positives. Like Jackson, mentioned, only having 1 penalty is great growth after leading the country in that last year. And there'll be a lot of stuff we can improve. And I do think Michigan will probably have the best personnel that we play against all year. And UCLA will be very good as well. But Michigan's got great personnel. I mean, they got a lot of great players.
Jackson mentioned, that there was it seemed like there was a little bit of coach comm issues defensively and all that kind of in the early going as well. Was that something you were cognizant about, and how long were you guys
it was an issue. We got to get that fixed. We got to get extenders or something, but we had problems. I think at home we put it right at the 50-yard line. Well, the problem at the 50-yard line here is it's a tunnel. So, it was an issue. It was a big issue when we were away from where it was offset, but we even had some problems on the other end. So we got to get that fixed because we did have some communication issues, and particularly on their second touchdown drive when it was down there away from where our coach comm was set up. We put the kids in bad positions, and that stuff we got to improve. And if we don't have that, we got to get things signaled in, and we got to work through that.
Like you said, extremely talented personnel on Michigan's side, obviously, but especially the defensive side of the ball. Jack obviously took a little bit of a beating tonight. Is there something? Are you looking at that and saying, it's part of the personnel, or is it we got to protect better?
Both. They got really good personnel. I don't think we'll see many rushers like number 8, Derek Moore. We ain't going to see another guy like him all year. But we got to get better. We got to protect the quarterback better. We got to have a little bit more urgency. And really, that's not the way we want to play. We had 16 tailback runs, and we threw it 47 times. That's not going to be our recipe for success.
I think I forget exactly what it was after. You kind of shot on the broadcast. You kind of got after Malik at one point. What was that? Was that him kind of John?
Well, I thought we got a little chippy. They got a little chippy, and I think the refs did a good job of officiating it well and not calling any 15-yard penalties. But I thought sometimes we were on the edge. I thought we probably should have been called for 1. And again, that's stuff that we really emphasized. We can't have the Lobos beat the Lobos. And one of them was in the red zone, which those are critical 15-yard penalties if you get one in the red zone and push you back. So we continue to be a more disciplined team that doesn't beat themselves.
Like you promised, kind of some rotation at right tackle tonight. I know you haven't looked at the film and all that, but do you imagine something's going to keep going on? And some right tackle inside, actually.
Yeah, I think every week you got to evaluate the roster, but particularly after the first games, because again, this is the first time we got to see guys play against live bullets and see who really stepped up and played well. I thought guys, I thought some guys who, David Murphy, Randolph Kapai, made some really big plays on special teams, and that's always a precursor. If those guys are making plays on special teams, maybe we got to look at playing them a little bit more on defense and things. So, we got to do a really good job evaluating this tape our first time, seeing this team play live, and make sure we're putting guys in the right spot.
You mentioned that you were going to have to be selected with matchups heading into this one. It seemed like Dorian was the guy who probably could have exploited that, and he kind of did tonight.
Dorian's a big-time football player. I think he's he was a power. He got recruited to Arizona. He's a power 4 level player, and I think he showed that tonight that he was not out of place. Playing against Michigan, and we've had some great tight ends. You think back to the guys we had at South Dakota State with Dallas Goddard and Tucker Kraft, and I think if he can keep growing and get better and stay hungry, I think he could be a guy who's in that kind of conversation.
What did you think about Underwood tonight?
He was awesome. I was impressed. I complimented him afterwards because I thought, we cut it to 7 right before the half, and then we get him to 3rd and 14. Feel pretty good, 3rd and 14, does a good job sitting in the pocket. He didn't turn it over at all, which is what you were. That was our hope, that you could maybe get a young quarterback to get frazzled and throw it over. But he's very accurate. I just was watching him a lot in warm-ups, and I thought just throwing routes on air. I mean, every ball was right on the money. I was hoping maybe. Getting people around him and changing coverages, we can throw him off a little bit, but he was very impressive, and I thought that was probably as big a drive of the game because, I think you feel a lot more excited going into halftime if you're down, down 7 than down 14. Because we had the ball, if we go down 7 and have the ball to start, you really are energized, but that was a heck of a drive, and he's a great player. Maybe I'll be telling my grandkids one day that I got to coach against Bryce Underwood.
What did you tell him? What did you tell him after the game?
Well, I was very impressed by his poise and his accuracy, and he didn't. And I really thought probably the biggest drive of the game, as far as the outcome, was that 2-minute drive before the half. It was a great job.
And then when you say your guys were rattled early by the atmosphere, you're referring to the number of fans.
I just think 110,000, and probably the speed of the game too, just because it's tough to simulate, that in practice with scout teams. But I think it took us. I warned the team on Thursday to say you got to settle in, because sometimes teams, sometimes you see teams like this, like an underdog comes in and you lose in 5 minutes, right? You turn it over 3 times in the first 5 minutes and it's 28-0 before you even blink. And fortunately, it didn't get that bad, but the first 8 minutes or 11 minutes, we were down 14-0. But I thought we settled in. I was happy that when they were able to build that 17-0 lead, it didn't, I think, affect our effort or our focus. We kept battling and kept fighting, which I think is a positive sign for our team going forward.
Has Hughes won the punting competition? Is he the starting guy?
He did. It was a close battle. It seemed like he punted pretty well today. I mean, we needed that one that bounced off him. We had to recover that. I mean, you need to win games like this. You need that ball to bounce right and get that one. But I thought he did a good job. But yeah, he punted because he won the job. It was a close competition between him and Charles, and then it was a pretty close competition between Charles and Grant for the kickoff job. But Charles won that job. But we're pretty deep there. I really feel like we have 2 capable punters and 2 capable kickoff guys. Luke is, I think, clearly our best place kicking guy, and that was neat for him. He's a Michigan kid, so to come home here and hit that, I think it was a 45-yarder. I was proud of him. Or 44-yarder, proud of him drilling that.
As a follow on the trick play, what made McKinney the right guy to throw that pass there?
He just throws the best of all those guys.
Did you feel that there was a kind of a real difference in terms of compared to the Oregon game last year, in the sense of just kind of how that comparison played out? Did you feel there was anything really different?
Well, I mean, a little similar. I mean, we were able to cut it to 3 in the Oregon game, which we were never able to get that close in this game. To get it to 1 possession game. But both teams have very good quarterbacks with Dylan Gabriel and Underwood. I kind of hoped going in we could get them to turn it over, and they never turned it over.
Anybody from the Zoom have a question for Coach? Go ahead, Will.
Coach, it's 17-0 in the second quarter, and it looks like the game's about to be away from you. But for 6 minutes, 22 seconds, you scored 10 straight points. You probably had 110,000 people nervous. You won over the NBC broadcasting crew because they kept talking about how gutsy your performance is. But what does this say about the New Mexico team? What do you think this game says nationally about your program right now?
Really, I just hope people in Albuquerque appreciate it and they come out and see us play next week, because we're gonna fight. This team's gonna fight and gonna battle, and we got a great coaching staff. It's gonna be a well-coached team, and we're gonna get this program turned around. And obviously, in game 1, we weren't good enough to face a great opponent like Michigan, but I think we can build this, and we need people to get behind us and support it. But I see us down the road being able to win a game like this down the road. It may take us a few years, it may take us 3 or 4 years to get to that point, but they're going to fight, and I think they're going to give our people of Albuquerque and people in the state of New Mexico something to be proud of. That we're going to compete, and we're never going to back down no matter who we're playing. I mean, obviously we were pretty big underdogs, so 35 or whatever points in this game, but we fought our ass off.
Coach, and then Devin touched on this earlier, but last year New Mexico led the country, or was dead last in penalties. They averaged over 9 a game. You only had 1 for 5 yards tonight. I mean, it's truly remarkable given how many new players you have, new system, that you're only flagged one time. You did talk about discipline, but is that one of the takeaways you can have that's positive?
Yeah, that's very positive. And again, I told our team we got to dominate the things you have full control of. And your effort, and your focus, your stuff you have full control of. I knew we were going to lose some one-on-one battles when you're playing a great team like Michigan, but penalties are coaching. That's you do a great job coaching and instilling discipline in your players. They're going to be disciplined. So I am proud of our staff for that, and we got to keep growing. And I think we got to, like I said, we got to do better because there was a few times we were on the edge of things and. The game got a little bit more chippy in the second half, and we got to be smart because I thought there was probably one that we maybe got away with, a 15-yarder that they didn't call.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Dave Lillibo. Go ahead.
Yeah, Rodney.
Hey, Coach. Just a quick thing for you. So you touched on a little bit, talking about this week. You guys are playing Idaho State, they're an FCS school, and then after that, you guys have UCLA. What will you guys do this? I know next week seems like so long away. What will you guys do this week to try to make sure that you guys don't overlook a team like Idaho State?
Well, I think Idaho State caught our attention in week 0. They played UNLV, was picked. They finished second in our league and only lost by 7. And we can't think we're God's gift to football because we didn't lose by 40 to Michigan. We got a ways to go. We got to keep getting better as a program. And Coach Hawkins does a good job at Idaho State. They're going to come in and play their ass off. For them, they'll be the underdog. They'll be like us coming into Michigan. So I know they'll come in and play really hard, and we got to focus on ourselves and get better this week in practice.
Any other questions?
Yes, Rodney?
You were talking about the personnel of Michigan, and I just want to touch on this a little bit. You spoke about the offensive side of the ball. I'm going to talk about the defensive side. It seemed like, you can talk about how great Bryce Underwood was today, but it really didn't seem like people were just coming out wide open. How would you assess the secondary? Is that more of just, again, Michigan's great personnel, or was that?
Well, I think we got to fix some things in coverage. On the 3rd and 14 play, they kind of ran a high-low concept, and we got to do a better job at teaching the guys just understand the situation. It's a 2-minute. We're like, we're not getting enough depth. We're like covering the underneath route and letting them throw it behind us. Which in that situation where the time's the factor, there's a minute left. You got to make them check it down and get it tackled. So there's some things we got to coach better with that. But they do have really good skill guys and. You look at Klein at 54 yards after the catch, Morgan at 37 yards after the catch. They got some really good skill that can break tackles and make guys miss.
Let's finish up with Sean right here.
Jackson kind of alluded to it, and then you obviously mentioned the Boise game as well too. It hasn't been an amazing week for the Mountain West. You could argue that tonight, even though it was a loss, was one of the better outings for the Mountain West this week. I know you're going to take it week by week and all that too, but when you're kind of looking at what you got and what other guys got, I know it's early. Are you kind of thinking this is possible you guys could maybe contend for something greater?
Well, college football is just a lot different than it used to be. You don't have just like 20 new players like you used to. We got like 75 new players. So you can flip. How many times has Indiana beat Michigan in the history of football? And last year they beat them. With the new staff. So no, I think you can turn around programs well. Now we can't get ahead of ourselves just because we hung in there. I think that we're there. We got to keep getting better. But I don't think. I don't think we probably have a dominant team that's just so much better than everybody in our conference. Like Boise was undefeated in conference last year, so I think that gives something to be excited about today. Why not us get a lot better and be in the mix? And a big thing for our fans is stop wanting to get back to a bowl game. It's been since 2016 since we played in a bowl game.
Let's
All right,
switch
thank
it
you,
up.
Coach.